All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cali Vale channel. You already know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. So then you get some more reviews on these ridiculous events that are going on around the world. And see, it's two places that I usually stay out of. Clubs and strip clubs. Bars, well, that's three. But I'm like, seriously, these places are usually sketchy as hell, especially the strip clubs. The strip clubs is a law enforcement's hangout. So a lot of these guys that you see in the strip clubs are usually regulars. And a lot of times these guys claim that they've gotten drugged. They got charges on their credit cards that they didn't even do, authorize. They didn't buy this and that. It's just usually not, the hype has died down anyway, because with inflation and everything, come on now, a lot of people don't even have money to go to these places anymore. But let's find out what's going on with the guys over here in China that are getting scammed by these hot bar girls. Let's go.
兄弟们，我昨天呢相亲呢被骗了。
Brothers, yesterday I almost fell victim to a blind date scam. I nearly got tricked by that woman. I've been going on blind dates in Shenzhen for a while now, meeting all sorts of women. Some in their 20s, others in their 30s, 40s, even over 50. Older women are interested in me, but I'm not interested in them. The women I like, some of them are masters or PhD graduates, but
Sheesh. And those are the ones you should stay away from. PhDs, people that work in psychiatry type jobs, careers. See, here's the thing. When you deal with those type of women, while you're trying to get to know them, they're going to be judging you and telling you what they think is wrong with you. And who wants to hear that shit? Nobody. I don't know why my space bar don't work when I hit it.
they're not interested in me either. There are also some women who don't want children, some who don't want to marry, and even some who are divorced with kids.
Hell no.
Truly all kinds of people. I'm not getting any younger either.
You ain't.
I'm 42, divorced, and my family is pressuring me. I really had no choice, so I decided to give a dating site a try. After all, one of my colleagues met his wife on that site. When I first joined a dating site, I didn't expect it to be so complicated. Initially, I saw a lot of profiles and wanted to reach out to some of the women, but I couldn't send any messages or view any information until I became a member.
And see, these dating apps just got recently busted too. I don't know about in other countries, but over here in America, like dating apps like Tinder, Match, and all them, whatever it is, they've been fined for the fact that they're charging men to read the messages while women don't have to pay for any of it. So that's another thing you should consider as a guy if you're trying to venture out on these dating apps. The women don't have to pay to read the messages, but the men do.
So, I eventually signed up for a premium membership, which allowed me to send messages. That's when I started chatting with a woman. Her profile said she was 32, unmarried, living in Shenzhen with a master's degree, and working in HR or foreign trade at a foreign company. We chatted for a few days, and from the photos she seemed attractive, fair skin, tall, and with good poise. This is exactly the type I like. Then, yesterday I had a day off, so we arranged to meet. The place was one that the woman suggested. When I saw her, I started feeling a bit suspicious. Her appearance was slightly different from her photos.
Oh boy.
Although she was still attractive, she didn't quite give off the vibe of a highly educated, professional woman.
Of course not.
She was wearing heavy makeup, and her clothes were a bit flashy. The first impression was that she didn't seem like someone with much depth or formal education. Still, since she was physically the type I like and I'm getting older, I didn't think too much about it and continued talking to her. About 10 minutes into our conversation, she suddenly said she was feeling a bit hot, and suggested we go to a nearby tea house. Honestly, I didn't think much of it. I figured I'd spend a few hundred yuan on tea and snacks and it would be fine. There was a tea house just a few steps away, so I thought it wouldn't be a big deal. Once inside, the waitress handed the menu to the woman, who immediately started ordering without asking me what I wanted. She just ordered a few things and then asked if I wanted anything. I didn't think much of it and said, "It's fine, you can order." I didn't see anything wrong with it. At that point, I thought it wouldn't be that expensive, just a few hundred yuan at most, so I didn't think much of it. However, when the waitress brought a bottle of red wine, I immediately got a bad feeling. You know, the kind of wine bottle with a horse head logo, Remy Martin. At that moment, I realized something was off.
Yeah.
I've read about scams involving wine traps before, and suddenly I became alert.
And see, here's the thing. This scam goes on in restaurants too, not just in China, but in France and other European countries. Because I have a Chinese friend that was actually in France, and they tried to get him. It was a fake menu where they were overcharging, trying to get him to pay for other things. And then they try to threaten you if you don't pay for it. And then it's just a large argument just breaks out. It's just a hot mess.
My mind immediately raced. Though I was nervous, I tried to remain calm so that the woman wouldn't notice. She poured wine for both of us and suggested we have a drink. I pretended everything was fine and took a small sip. Then she ordered a fruit platter, and as I looked at it, something felt off. Taking advantage of the moment when the waitress walked away, I said to the woman, "The fruit platter doesn't have much. I'll go to the counter to order something else." I quickly stood up, and since the tea house was nearly empty, I walked a few steps away and then immediately broke into a run, bolting out of the door. Brothers, I don't need to tell you how panicked I was. I didn't know what would have happened if I hadn't acted fast. I didn't even dare look back, but I had a feeling that if I got caught by the waitress, I'd be in trouble. Thankfully, my reflexes were quick. If I had stayed any longer, I'd have been forced to pay 5,000 yuan before I could leave that door. As I walked out of the tea house, my mind was in a whirl. When I thought back on the entire process, I realized how close I came to falling into that woman's trap. She brought me to the tea house with the clear intention of making me drink and eat, ultimately forcing me to pay a huge bill. At that moment, I considered calling the police, but then I thought it might cause even more trouble.
Rule number 1. Don't meet people online, especially today. Now, back when it first started, it might have been a little better, but it's just more sketchier now than it was before. Yeah, and it's like dating apps, just understand that that's the leftover pool of people. They're washed up. And a lot of times they don't have good intentions either. So,
what if the scammer denied everything, and I ended up being the one who got into trouble?
yeah.
What if the police took me in for questioning? That would be even worse. Afterward, I received a message from her asking where I was. I replied, "Scammer," and immediately blocked her. I'm just relieved I didn't fall for it. This incident made me realize that blind dating through websites is something you really can't trust easily, especially with those who seem perfect on paper.
And he's not even a passport bro, and this is happening to him in his own country, his own province. So just imagine what's happening to the passport bros. They're coming up missing. They're ending up in other people's homes. It's just a hot mess out there. Online dating is not the way to do it.
On the surface, she was 32, highly educated, had a good job, and was attractive, but behind that could have been a hidden agenda. It also taught me that you have to stay vigilant when dating. Scammers like these, especially wine trap scammers, are truly scary. As men who are more naive or eager to get married, we can easily become their targets. So everyone, be careful and don't easily trust anyone online.
My dude. And to you guys that are 35 and under, I hope you guys are listening and learning lessons from what I say. I mean, I'm not the only one that's on the internet saying these things, but you notice how common these things are. It happens more than you think it is. Just because it's not reported on the news or on social media doesn't mean it's not happening that much. It's actually happening more. So, yeah. It's best just to connect through your social circle. That way you already know what the person looks like and you'll have less suspicion.
Even now, thinking back, I'm still a bit scared. If I had hesitated for even a second, I could have paid a steep price. Thankfully, I'm a bit more alert to these kinds of things, or I'd have fallen into their trap.
现在的酒托是越混越差了吗？
Brothers, with the increasing regulation of the nightlife industry and the stricter supervision of live streaming platforms, the drinking scam industry seems to be undergoing new changes. Nowadays, not only has the number of women involved in drinking scams increased, but their methods have also changed. However, overall, they have become much more cautious compared to before. Their main targets are low-income men, and they generally don't dare to scam high-income men. The amount they typically deceive from each person is not very high, usually ranging from a few hundred yuan to 4,000 yuan. They have a limit, and will not exceed this range. So how do they operate? First, these drinking scam women will post photos of themselves that appear very innocent on social media. These photos are usually not exaggerated or sexy. They give the impression of a fresh and charming type of girl. Through these photos,
Girl
they
next
attract
door.
the attention of some men, and after establishing contact, they will proactively suggest meeting up, often insisting on meeting within a short period of time. For example, they may start chatting in the morning, and then urgently ask to meet in the afternoon. You might wonder, why the rush to meet?
Yeah, that's a dead giveaway right there. If it's too soon, then just leave that shit alone. It's not even worth it. But you have a lot of thirsty guys out there that haven't had any attention from a female in a while, so they'll fall head first right into the trap.
Actually, the logic behind it is similar to a buffet model. Buffets are cheap, but to make a profit, they rely on a high volume of customers. The drinking scam, women operate similarly. They need to meet as many men as possible, because by meeting more men in one-on-one encounters, they can make enough money. If they were to take their time chatting with you, they might not even make much money in a month. That's why they often prefer to take a quick approach. After meeting, they usually take you to a music restaurant or similar places, where you have a meal, drink something, chat for a while, and then they leave. They can easily make a few hundred yuan in this way. Sometimes they meet with a dozen men in a single day, and at the very least, 5 or 6. Even if they only make 200 yuan per meeting, meeting 5 or 6 people a day would still bring in over 1,000 yuan, which could add up to at least 30,000 yuan a month. This income is actually quite impressive. So, brothers, if you encounter a woman who insists on taking you to a place to spend money as soon as you meet, don't hesitate. Propose to split the bill, AA system. Or suggest not going to her designated spot. If she refuses, you should be cautious. To avoid getting scammed,
I say just avoid the whole damn thing. Just be like, nah, no thank you, I'm good. Don't be afraid to turn dates down, because most guys are. So
best to stay alert and avoid falling into their trap.
我今年25岁，月收入2800块起。
I'm 25 years old, and my monthly income is 2,800 yuan.
damn.
Recently, something happened on Valentine's Day that left me feeling both amused and exasperated. That day, I went on a date with a girl I had met online just a few days before. She was the type with delicate, small hands, giving off a very fresh and natural vibe. She was the one who suggested meeting up, and I decided to take her to a Western restaurant. The place was one she had already picked out. We had agreed to meet at this restaurant. When I arrived, I was a bit nervous, since it was our first date, and I wanted to make a good impression. So I asked her, "What would you like to eat?" She glanced at me and immediately responded, "You can choose." The first thing I thought when I saw her was, this girl seems really simple.
Yeah.
She wore a pair of pink high heels, nude-colored stockings, and walked lightly. Her outfit was simple, but
Don't seem real simple to me. Sounds kind of erotic, but oh man, y'all just down bad. Period.
she had a special charm, possibly because of her naturally humble aura. So, I began ordering. I chose 4 relatively simple dishes: a plate of spaghetti, a pair of grilled chicken wings, a pizza, and 2 egg tarts. I thought these choices wouldn't seem too casual, but also weren't too extravagant. After ordering, I asked her, "What would you like to drink?" Without hesitation, she requested a bottle of red wine.
Oh god.
At that moment, my heart sank a little, and I had a bad feeling. Although I tried to stay calm on the surface, I started becoming suspicious inside. To cover up my unease, I turned to the waiter and asked, "Excuse me, where is the restroom?"
Make a run.
The waiter pointed me to the second floor. As I walked towards it, I asked him, "How much is this bottle of red wine?" The waiter told me it cost 599 yuan.
Whoa.
At that point, I immediately knew what was going on. The price of 599 yuan for a bottle of red wine, which clearly wasn't a high-end brand, was a classic sign of a scam often associated with wine trap tactics. At that moment, I no longer hesitated. I realized I was likely falling into some kind of trap, so I quickly left the restaurant. Without thinking twice, I jumped out of the second floor window and ran off. Though I stumbled a bit when I landed, I didn't feel any real loss. After all, being able to spot the scam in time was its own kind of victory. All in all, in situations like this, you really need to stay alert and not let people take advantage of you.
到底什么是酒？
Damn. He said he jumped out the window. So, I mean, this place must have been pretty big and it probably would have took him a long time to get out, but damn. He jumped out the window to make that great escape. Good for him. These guys are smart.
酒偷。
Brothers, do you know what a wine scam is? Today, I want to share my personal experience with you. In the first half of this year, I was working at a company called Fudong Electronics Company Limited in Guangdong. The reason we, single men, enter factories is simple. We want to find a girlfriend. However, the reality is very harsh. The number of women entering factories is decreasing, and finding a wife seems almost impossible. But my family was pressuring me to get married,
Of course they
which
were.
made me feel really uncomfortable. They kept urging me to find a girlfriend so I could go home with someone for the new year. Under this pressure, I started asking around and doing everything I could to meet women, but I still couldn't find anyone I was satisfied with. Then one day, while I was chatting on QQ, I suddenly received a message from a stranger. When I opened it, I saw a young and beautiful girl. I thought, could this be my chance to finally find a girlfriend?
Got him stargazed. But you have to know when to block the shine on that stargaze.
Little did I know, this was the beginning of me falling into a scam.
Uh-oh.
We added each other on QQ, and after chatting for about a week, she suggested meeting up.
Hey, do me a favor. Anybody that has any information on QQ, drop it in the comment section. I'm going to look it up as well, too, but maybe somebody could tell me something that I don't know that the internet's not going to tell me.
The place she chose was a shopping mall called the Run FA. When we
What?
met, we exchanged pleasantries, and then she directly led me to a tea and fruit store. This store mainly sold raisins and other fruits, nothing special. I didn't think much of it. We had just sat down when she immediately ordered a bottle of red wine for herself. Can you guess how much that bottle of wine cost? It was 2,000 yuan. Adding some other miscellaneous charges, the total came to 2,600 yuan.
So basically, this scam doesn't target high value people. That's what's the interesting thing about it. It's targeting regular, normal people that live paycheck to paycheck. That's what's very interesting about this. But
At the time, I was really puzzled. This place wasn't even a fancy restaurant, so why was it so expensive? Since I had just started working and didn't know much, I didn't realize there was a scam going on. Later, when I got home, I kept thinking about it, and I decided to look it up online. That's when I found out that this was a classic wine scam. After that, I tried to contact the girl again, but she completely ignored me and didn't respond to my messages. At that time, I was really heartbroken because
Damn.
it was a very disappointing experience. Why am I sharing this experience with you today? Because I still see many people who, like me, fall into these kinds of scams. I want to tell you all, if you see my post, please make sure to share it with your friends, especially those single men who are desperate to find a girlfriend or get married. Do not trust those girls on WeChat or QQ.
wow. This dude, somebody give this man his flowers. He's the first, out of me watching all these videos, out of all the videos I watched on these type of subjects, he's the first one that said don't trust the girls on WeChat. Oh man. So he's definitely gonna open up a can of worms on that one.
Who have beautiful profile pictures and send you unsolicited messages. Don't respond to them because they are 100% scammers.
现在的社会还会存在着酒托或者是贩毒吗？
In today's society, there are still various fraud schemes such as liquor scammers and meal scammers, and I can confidently tell everyone that these scams still exist. Just a few days ago, I was online when a girl suddenly messaged me on WeChat, asking if I was truly interested in making friends. She said that her family was pressuring her to get married, and she was looking for someone to genuinely date.
Yeah, right.
She emphasized that she did not care about the man's financial situation, only his character, how he treated her, and his ambition.
That's a scam right there. She don't care about his income. Newsflash, all women care about a man's income, especially if she's trying to be serious with him. Because most men are supposed to be, men are supposed to be the provider, right? Even if she has her own money, she's still going to expect him to do most things financially. So, yeah, so if you're a guy and whatever woman that you're dealing with has her own income and she really doesn't need you, trust and believe that most likely you're still going to be supporting her financially too.
As for a house and a car, she said that they could work on that together. At the time, I thought this girl's values were pretty right, so we started chatting. She told me that she had been working in Chengdu for over a year, and her monthly salary was only a few thousand yuan. Then she asked me if I was free that evening and whether we could meet up to chat. I agreed, telling her that there were many nice restaurants near my office, and I could invite her to dinner. She hesitated for a moment and said that as a guy, I should take the initiative and come to her side. I said no problem, and asked her to send me the location so I could take a taxi there. She sent me the location, and I informed my friend, inviting him to join me. My friend and I drove to the place she had sent. When we arrived, I told her I was there. She said she hadn't come out yet and asked me to wait. I told my friend to stay in the car while I waited. About 10 minutes later, she called to confirm what I was wearing and the glasses I had on. She said she was waving from the side, so I walked over and we exchanged pleasantries. As we were talking, she asked me what I wanted to eat. I told her I wasn't familiar with the area and that I'd be fine with whatever she wanted. At the time, there were many small restaurants around, but she didn't make a choice and instead led me through a small alley to a second-floor steakhouse. Upon entering, I noticed that there were almost no other customers except for a couple sitting together.
All right, so have you noticed he's like the second or third person that said this, that the place wasn't that crowded? So that's another, that's not really a sign, but usually for us here in the West, when I see that a place doesn't have a lot of customers, I'm assuming that the place isn't that good. So either the place isn't that good or it's a scam. That's usually how we'll view this type of scenario, right? This place is just not that popular. It's just there. Maybe there's a lot of complaints on Google. You never know until you get there and you find this out.
There were several men standing at the door, seemingly standing guard.
Oh.
She chose a seat far from the couple, and the waiter brought the menu. She asked me what I wanted to eat, and I told her that I had already eaten, so I didn't want to order anything. She then asked me if I wanted to drink alcohol. I told her I don't drink because I had injured myself playing basketball 2 days ago. She asked if I would like some juice instead. I sneaked a glance at the menu and saw that the juice cost 40 yuan, so I agreed. She then ordered a steak and 2 juices for herself. Not long after, the waiter brought the bill. I was shocked when I saw that it was over 880 yuan. I was stunned. At that moment, I realized this was clearly a scam. I pretended to be embarrassed and said, "This price is too expensive. I've never had anything so expensive and I can't afford this kind of cost with my current salary." She replied that if I thought it was too expensive, I could order less. At this point, I laid it all out and said, "Beautiful lady, we've just met today and you've ordered such an expensive meal. Isn't that a bit inappropriate? Your behavior is making me feel like you're trying to scam me."
Oh.
Her expression immediately changed and she said, "What do you mean I'm scamming you? What do you mean? I come to this restaurant often and the prices here are normal. This is the cheapest place around. You see, the prices at the bar next door are 5,000 to 6,000 yuan, even up to 10,000 yuan. Seeing her get anxious, I stopped replying, and after a moment of silence, she finally said, "Okay, if you think it's too expensive, we can go somewhere else to eat." I nodded and stood up to leave. Since the meal hadn't been served yet, the men standing at the door didn't stop me. After I walked out, she came out a few minutes later, looking upset and not even looking at me. She said, "Let's just go home." I said okay, and while I was downstairs calling my friend to come pick me up, I noticed she seemed to be lurking nearby, keeping an eye on me. There was also a man on the second floor of the restaurant staring at me with a fierce look. A few minutes later, she came over when she saw I hadn't left yet and asked, "Why haven't you left?" I told her I was waiting for my friend, and she seemed very surprised, asking where my friend was.
Wow.
I guess she was afraid I had come with someone to cause trouble. I replied that it had nothing to do with her, and we were all doing our own thing. Then I walked away. After I got home, I looked up similar scams online and found many cases that were exactly the same. Her method was the same as many of the examples I found. First, she added me on WeChat as a stranger, then initiated a meeting and set the meeting location. She took me to a place she had chosen, and these places were usually very expensive. Then she ordered very expensive items, knowing that most guys would be too embarrassed to refuse and would eventually be forced to pay for the high costs.
So basically, the scam is to look up the most expensive restaurants and then try to get a guy to take a date to, wow. I mean, it's kind of stupid, but it's like, what's the point? Just to see how much the guy has or how much he's going to spend on you? Like, what's the deal?
After the payment, the girl would disappear or even block me. Now, there are not only liquor scammers and meal scammers, but also scams involving clothing and housing, where the goal is to lure you into purchasing expensive goods or services, making it easy for the scammers to earn a profit. The scammers' tactics are very sophisticated.
Back to the restaurant, though, there's a lot of guys that complain here in the West that foodie dates. So basically, these are just foodie dates. Expensive foodie dates, yeah. So that's pretty much what it is. These girls aren't really trying to get to know the guys. They just want somebody, they just want to round up a bunch of guys that's going to take them out and they can eat for free. See how that works? So basically, they're using dating for scamming. That's genius, but okay. Waste of time.
And young single men are more likely to fall victim to these scams.
Mm-hmm.
I hope everyone remains vigilant and protects their finances, because our money doesn't grow on trees.
If after engaging in an online romance, you meet in person and end up encountering a drinking scam, where you are charged several thousand or even tens of thousands of yuan at a cafe or restaurant, what should you do? Today, I'll provide some practical tips to help you avoid further harm. First of all, when you encounter unreasonable prices, especially in places like cafes or restaurants, if you find that certain items or services are priced far above normal levels, such as a cup of coffee costing 888 yuan or a bottle of wine priced at 29,999 yuan, you must be alert and absolutely refuse to pay such high fees. In such cases, you should firmly refuse to settle the bill and immediately report it to the police.
I'm like this. The minute you sit down and you start looking at that menu and you realize that the prices are too high, just get up and walk out. Just get up and walk out. That's how you solve that. Wow. I hope this doesn't become a thing in the West. Oh my God. And I'm trying to think in my head now. I'm like, okay, who has it worse? The passport bros or these people that get scammed that are living in their own country? This is Kai Lavelle. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This is pretty interesting. But I guess I'll have another one out for you in a little bit. See you in a little bit.